We're in the Bay Area, so this is probably, I don't know in terms of the wealth.
Highest wealth in the area.
But it's a lot of money right here.
Highest wealth in the United States of America.
Right? So it's competitive, right? Therefore, you don't want to just go crazy, you know what I mean, and you don't get out of control going out just buying whatever. You got to have some criteria. You got to have a method, methodology, a philosophy of what you're doing. You don't just throw mud on the wall. So here's some key points that we look at as investors and brokers to qualify a property, make sure it makes sense for us. The cash flow, number one, right? NOI detail, that stands for net operating income and the details around that. The price and the relationship to the cap rate. Cap rate means capitalization rate. I'm going to go into that a little bit later and break that down. The rent roll. The rent roll is the list of tenants that are occupying the property, the list of vacant units and the potential market rent. That's critical. And then here's a big number. It's called cash on cash return. Matthews had a good point. He said, was it cash is king?
Cash is always king.
Absolutely. Now, how do you measure whether the cash you have is generating enough money or not generating enough money? Whether that cash you have is producing enough. The way you measure that is called cash on cash return. There's other things, but the cash you receive from the cash you invested annually basically is the cash on cash return. That's an important number. So these are the few matrices that we looking at in order to evaluate a property to see, hey, is this going to make sense for our investment portfolio and or is this going to make sense for our investors' portfolio, right? Okay, so when you're looking at a property, and here, this is for some of you guys who've been around the business, this is going to be ABC stuff. For some of y'all looking into getting in this, pay real good attention because this is what the lifeblood of the business is all about. We got to do an evaluation of income, right? We start what we call the gross schedule rents. The gross schedule rents is the gross schedule rents is the most rent that you could bring in. Look at it this way. If every unit in the building is leased out 12 months a year, that's the gross schedule rent. The highest amount of rent you could possibly bring in. You ain't going to bring in any more than this because you're only renting units at X amount, right? X amount times 12, however many units you got. That's the gross schedule rent. That's how much if everything was rented out, if everybody paid their rent, that's how much you would bring in. Looking like this, it's a 4-unit, and the rents are $1,000 a month, right? That's $4,000 a month times 12, $48,000 a year. Yeah, $48,000 a year. That's your gross schedule rent. Now you take that number, you start knocking stuff off of it. The first thing you're going to look at is your vacancy, the vacancy rate, right? Two things. You want to look at the vacancy rate of the building that you're looking at or you're evaluating, and then the vacancy rate of the market, all right? Every city is going to have a different vacancy rate. Every neighborhood within a city is going to have a different vacancy rate, right? For instance, East Oakland is going to have a little bit different vacancy rate than Lake Marion. Although East Oakland is about 3% right now, 3% vacancy rate. Lake Marion, there may not be any vacancy right now. You know what I mean? But just say it like this. It's a little bit different from city to city, state to state, and it's also within a city from neighborhood to neighborhood, right? But you got to know the vacancy rate of the building, the vacancy rate of the market. After that, we take off, subtract loss to lease and or concessions. So this is your concessions, meaning if you have to do a first month free or half off the deposit to get somebody in, something like that. Rental turnover, people moving in, people moving out. Also something that you got to account for, which is difficult, but you just got to account for it, is people not paying their rent. All right? So that happens. Now, after you've taken away from that, you got to add. Now you add what we call other income. And that usually is laundry and vending. Now, these are going to be on bigger properties, 30 units, 40 units, something like that. You're not going to typically have a vending machine at a fourplex, but you might have a laundry room, right? So that's other income. You see, when you walk outside, there's a big billboard on this building right here. They're getting paid a handsome check every month. They're having that billboard on their building. So other income. And if you don't have any other income, try to find it, if you can, right? So you take a Comcast, right, on a big building. I think it's over 40 units. Comcast will pay you as a landlord for everybody that signs up through their service, something like that. But it's just a way, exactly, to generate additional income on top of the rents, right? So you got the gross scheduled rents, you take away vacancy, loss of lease, you add other income, and that gets you your effective, it is, gross income. This is the money you make before you start paying some bills, right? All right? On that note, now this is where the rubber meets the road, all right? Operating expenses. Now, check it out. I say operating expenses. This is the expenses before your mortgage, right? You know you got mortgage. Now, here's the biggest mistake I've seen from 2004 to 2007. People forgot all about this right here. I had a lot of people that was looking at buildings, and when I look at a building, I run an APOD. That's a pro forma, annual property operating data sheet. That's my numbers, my projections. And so I look, hey, here's the income, here's the bill. People, taxes, insurance, maintenance. Oh, I'm just gonna pay my mortgage as long as it pays the mortgage. But what about all this other stuff, right? This is the operating, the cost of operation. This is what it's going to cost you to run this building. This is the acronym. These are most famous. These are the more consistent expenses. There's others, but these are the ones you're probably definitely going to see. Taxes, right? Now here it is. Two forms of taxes. Property tax, right? But a lot of people forget, hey, if you got a property, it's making you money, you got money in your pocket, income tax. You got to pay income tax. It's okay. You made money. But just understand that if you're making money off the property, there's some write-offs that come along with it. But if you make good cash flow, you might have to pay taxes on that. So just understand that, be ready. That shocks a lot of investors. And they say, hey, I had a good year. Oh, wait a minute. I got to raise taxes? Yeah, taxes. Plan on it. After that, you got insurance, property insurance. Sometimes on a big property, you may have general liability insurance, which I truly advise you to get, especially once you start getting 5 units and above. Management, you got to have somebody to manage your property. And you can manage your property individually, right? But what was it, toilets and tenants and, you know what I mean, termites, all that. Well, you can hire somebody like a broker like me or, another company, a professional to come in and manage your, now, they're not going to do it for free, right? So you got to pay them. Two things. If it's a bigger building, you have to have an on-site. Anything in the state of California, 16 units and above, you have to have an on-site resident manager. Why? Because of a fire or something like that, people's lives are in danger. Somebody has to be accountable and be there to act on the spot. So in the state of California, 16 units and above, you must have an on-site manager, and you're probably going to have an off-site company to pay as well. Just budget it in. Maintenance. Somebody moves out, you got to fix the unit up. Somebody, toilet bust, you got to fix that. Now, here's the big deal. You don't got to fix it necessarily. Right? So I've never done no toilets. I'm not good on no toilets, right? If I got a toilet that busts, I got a maintenance guy. We're going to call a maintenance guy. He's going to come do the toilet, right? I got people to go and fix stuff, right? But it costs money. So you got to budget for it. Utilities, gas, electric, water. These are things you got to pay. And it's good if a building is individually metered. How many of y'all know what that is? Yeah. That's when the tenant pays their own PG&E. And if you find a building where the tenant pay their own water, right? You're really doing good at that point. That cuts down costs. And that's the thing. You got one of them buildings where the tenant's paying the water, that expense is off your back. So with that, now I'm going to kind of blast. We got 15 minutes left. So repairs, which we say different from maintenance because, hey, if you need to make a capital improvement, you need to fix a water heater, something like that, that's a repair. Reserves. You need to have reserves for a bill that pop up like Mr. Williams was just talking about. So stack some money away. If it's $100 a month, whatever it is, stack it away because you need to have reserves. That's operating expenses. There's other ones, but those are the main ones. You need to account for them, you need to budget for them. Now, that brings us to this critical number. It's called net operating income. You take your gross effective income, the effective rental income, minus the total operating expenses, right? That's gonna get you the net operating income, right? Anything that's 5+ units, this is the value of the property, right? An appraiser, they're looking at your property, they're gonna take this, they're gonna divide it by what's called a capitalization rate, they're gonna come up with a value of the property. This is critical because this is the money that you use to pay your mortgage and pay yourself. And you have to pay yourself. This idea of if a property just pays for itself, is risky because if that month where it don't pay for itself, then you got to pay for it, right? So it should be paying you and paying the mortgage and paying you, even if it's just a little bit. But make sure it pays you, right? So, it's basically the way I broke it down is what's left over after you collect the rents, pay your bills, but before you pay your mortgage. It's critical, right? Now, reason why it's really, really critical, especially when you get to 5 units and above, is because something called a capitalization rate, all right? I'm going to try to break this down as quickly as I can, but this is an important measure to know. 1 to 4 units, not so much, but 5+ units is everything. The capitalization rate essentially is the rate of return generated by a real estate investment property based on the annual year, net operating income that a property generates, right? So the rate of return generated by a real estate investment property based on the annual net operating income that a property generates, all right? Basically, it represents the percentage return, the percent return you would get from a building if you paid cash and did not have a mortgage, all right? So let's just say mortgage out the window, right? You pay, it's $1 million property, right? Say it's 10 units, $1 million, right? You got the $1 million, paid it off, no mortgage, right? If that net operating income, what's left over after you pay the bills, is $100,000. That's the money you would put in there's no mortgage, right? You put that in your pocket. You could have some taxes, but that's the money you put in your pocket. So that's your return, right? That's the yield, the return. That $100,000. You bought it for $1 million. Got that $100,000 after you paid all the bills. That's your net operating income. That is, well, let me ask y'all, what's $100,000 on $1 million?
10%.
10%. That's a 10% cap rate, 10% capitalization rate. Basically, the formula looks like this. Net operating income divided by the purchase price equals your cap rate. So if I took that $100,000 divided by $1 million, right, I get 10%, 0.1, 10%. 10% rate of return on my money, right? That's a critical measure. It's going to help you to understand whether this deal is a good deal or a bad deal. It's going to help you to understand whether you can pay your mortgage or not pay your mortgage. And it's going to directly correlate to the value of the property. 5+ units, when an appraiser comes to your property, they're looking at the cap rate more so than they're looking at the sales comps. They're going to run sales comps, right? See what stuff sold for. That's important. But the first look at the measure of value is the capitalization rate. And this is the same example I just said, but then you can kind of see it. 10% cap rate equals $100,000 divided by $1 million purchase price. Now, cap rate, this is the key to understand. Cap rates, just like vacancy rates, are going to shift based on city, based on market, right? Based on economic conditions. Let's say you bought this building at a 10% cap rate, right? Had the cash, you paid it, generated $100,000 a year. 5 years later, the market is improved. And let's just say the market cap rate is 5%. And it's happened to people. This has happened a lot, especially when the market really shoots up. So let's just say this, y'all. Say you took that $100,000, and by the way, this formula is an inversely related formula. You can switch the numbers around to get to the other number. So if I have 2 out of the 3, I can always find the other number. All right. Perfect example. If I got a $100,000 NOI, right? If I divide that, I'm trying to see what is the place worth. I've owned it for 5 years, right? So I bought it for $1 million, I owned it for 5 years. It's still netting $100,000 a year, but the market's improved. So I want to see how much. Well, if I'm going to sell it, how much can I sell it for? I look in the reports. I say, oh, market cap rates are 5%. So this is how you determine the value. Take the $100,000, divide it instead of by 10%. You divide it by 5%. That's how you can get the purchase price. Inverse relationship, right? So if you take 100,000 divided by 5%, 0.05, right? Yeah. What's that number?
$2 million.
$2 million, right? It's $1 million profit, right? That's why the cap rate is real, real important. It's important for you to. And cap rates are generally, related to interest rates. They affect each other, but it's important to know what the market cap rate is going in. It's important to know what the cap rate is throughout the whole period. And it's real important to know what the cap rate is when it's time to sell. That makes sense? Rule of thumb, real simple. It's just the opposite of stocks. The higher, the better. when you buy. You want to buy at a 10 cap and you want to sell at a 5 cap. The lower the better when you sell, right? Because of the relationship to the value. Higher the better when you buy, lower the better when you sell. Just remember that. And that's what, so we were looking at properties that are a higher cap rate. Even in San Francisco, if the market's 3, you want to try to buy at 3.5, right? You want to always stay ahead of the market. It's, simple stuff, all right?